Hi everyone, welcome to our latest podcast for July. I am joined by Curtis Pugh.
And I'm joined by Ashleigh.
And we're obviously going to go through a few things with you today. The first things that we're going to go through is what has been happening over the last month. So, one of the biggest things which is really exciting is the Special Olympics. Now, our hockey flyers team, which includes Kath Hislop, Oliver, Jerome and Ben, have all gone and competed at the Special Olympics, and it's the very first time GB has actually entered a tournament in hockey, and guess what? They won bronze.
That's brilliant.
So I think that really warrants for a massive well done to all of you. You've done an absolute fantastic job. Also, we've had the Jubilee Party, which was on Saturday the 11th of June. Don't think we were able to attend.
No, we wasn't. No.
But I did stalk Midland Mencap's Facebook page and it looked amazing. I was quite envious that I was unable to go. We've also had Volunteers Week, we've had Carers Week, and we've had Learning Disability Week. So next up is a podcast topic, so take it away, Curtis.
This month's topic is about carers, which sets us up nicely to introduce us to our first guest speaker interview for the podcast, Sarah Lynch.
So hi Sarah, thank you for coming to speak with us today.
You're welcome.
So obviously we've got some questions for you.
Yes.
So I'll kick it off. And the first one is, can you tell us a bit about you and who you care for, please?
Yeah, of course. So, like you say, I'm Sarah. I am a family project worker here at Midland Mencap, and I am a mum to 4. So I have 3 boys and 1 little girl. Well, she's not really little anymore, actually. I keep saying that, but she's nearly 16, but she's still my little girl. And 2 of my children have additional needs. So they both have autism. And then one of my older sons, who's 17, he also has ADHD and Tourette's. My youngest, I said, he has autism and sensory processing disorder. So they both have care needs, but very different care needs as well. So they both need a little bit something different from me.
Okay. Have you got any questions?
Yeah. How easy was it for you to get advice, support, and help you as well as the boys?
In all honesty, it wasn't that easy. My 17-year-old, he was diagnosed quite late, so he wasn't diagnosed till he was 14. So we'd navigated through school without much support, which was quite difficult. And I know from working with parents now that is a general thing that we're finding that's happening. There is lack of support in, your general mainstream school. It is getting better, and it's not all schools, but it can be difficult. My youngest son, he was diagnosed quite young, so he was 3.5. And you can feel quite alone because you kind of get the diagnosis and that is all that you've been striving for so long, to get that validation that you're not going crazy, that these things are happening in your life. And then you do get that diagnosis and you are kind of left to just figure it out then for yourself. And Google can be good for some things, but then again, it's not always the best tool.
It's a bit like a secret society.
Yeah, it is. And you feel like when you find something that's really valuable and good, it's like you found gold. You're like, oh my gosh, how do I tell other people about this? So for me, it was a lot of, self-research, joining forums, joining Facebook groups. So yeah, other parents really got me through the initial couple of years.
Yeah. And I suppose one thing that we're probably unaware of, because we're obviously fortunate enough to actually have our disability, so we've got no other option but to get on and deal with it. But obviously as a parent, that's slightly different, I suppose, not knowing what the future would hold for you and stuff. How did you navigate all of that?
I've always likened it to a kind of a grieving process, because you go, you enter motherhood thinking that you're going to have a child and it's going to go a certain way. They'll go to school, they'll make friends, they'll go to college and uni, they'll get a job, they'll get married. You kind of think that you're going to go down that general route, and then you're handed something completely different, and it's really hard to see what that future is. So you kind of have to grieve what you thought it was going to be and accept that you just don't know. And it is that the unknown can be really unnerving.
I suppose sometimes it's actually scarier for the parent.
Yeah, because
than what it is for
the kid,
child.
like I said, the 6-year-old, nearly 7-year-old, he's totally oblivious. I mean, we talk about autism and we don't shy away from it. And we said that, you have autism, Dougie. It means that you've got a really good memory, and we play on all the positive things. So he's oblivious to anything that might be negative. And he's still very young. So children that age tend to be really inclusive. They don't care that he doesn't communicate the same way, or, make eye contact or play in the same way. They don't care. It's when they get a little bit older that, you do worry. You start to notice, yeah.
And what was your biggest frustration around the lack of awareness and understanding of what you have to do as a carer to help support the boys and everything?
Yeah, I think it's hard. Day to day is a fight. Nothing's simple when you're working and looking after somebody and loving somebody that's got autism or a disability, because your general day-to-day life is a bit of a struggle and a fight. Just getting up in the morning sometimes and getting him to get dressed and transition from the house to the car is a fight. And then when you're trying to find support, it's another fight. And I think that's the biggest frustration, that these endless referrals, endless applications, endless assessments. When you feel like you're on trial, sometimes you feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again. You apply for something and then you have to do it again in 3 or 4 years' time, but autism's still there. It's not going to disappear. It's not something he's going to grow out of. So yeah, just that constant battle, the going over the same thing, the repetition. It's exhausting.
Have you got any others, Curtis?
Yeah, what's the best part about being a carer?
Okay, so it's exciting. My day is never dull.
Yeah.
How I don't do more steps than I actually do, because I don't feel like I ever sit down. My youngest is very active. Like I said, he has sensory processing difficulties, so he sensory seeks. So he moves from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep. They're keeping me young anyway. And their way of thinking, it fascinates me. It's so fun. My youngest has just started swimming lessons at school, and he was really, really stressed about it. And I couldn't understand why, because we've been swimming, he knows what swimming is. And he just kept, and then we got to the day, and I said, why don't you want to go? And he just shouted out in the car on the way, I don't want to swim in a bath. I'm like, you haven't got to swim in a bath. But my teacher said we're going to a swimming bath. I was like, that's just another word for a swimming pool.
Yeah.
So obviously he'd taken that so literally that he thought he would have to swim in a bath.
And you don't realise, do you? And I suppose I'm like that in any case, because I can resonate sort of like with my sport, with my coaches that I've worked with, that I do take things really literally, do you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Just that part of him, it's so quirky and so lovely and innocent. I asked him to draw the curtains the other day, and he said, why do you want a picture of the curtains? I was like, no, I don't need to draw them, I want to close them. I have to really think about my words. Yeah, it's fun.
So just a last question then.
Okay.
Who supports you?
Do you know, I am really lucky. I have a really supportive family. I'd be lost without my mum. She's amazing. We access short breaks, so Dougie attends short breaks provision, which is just amazing. It's amazing for him because he gets to interact with peers and other adults, and it's good to build his confidence and push him out his comfort zone a little bit. But it also means I get that break where I can go shopping and not worry, or I can just get some things done around the house and not have to make sure I can keep an eye on him and make sure he's safe. And I have really supportive colleagues as well. So I am really, really lucky.
That's really good. Well, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
No, you're more than welcome.
I think it's one of those things, as I say, carers are sort of the unsung heroes. I know from my point of view, and I suppose from yours as well, there's so much that my parents, my mum in particular, still does for me today that you don't even think about, do you? Because it just comes second nature.
I work with carers every day, and often they don't see the divide of just being a parent and then becoming the carer, and it's not until we sit down with them and explain that actually by doing what you're doing, it is more than just parenting. You are doing that little bit more, and it blows them away sometimes, and they do struggle to identify as a carer, but like you've said, with things that parents do and other family members, it's invaluable.
Definitely. Well, as I say, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Perfect. So, moving on to the next bit, and that is the monthly challenge. So, as you're aware, Curtis, I met up with John Moody from Vox Life.
Yeah.
Now, Vox Life is actually an Include Me supporter, and they have lots of different wearable technology, such as insoles for your shoes, patches, armbands, knee support and whatnot, and that wearable technology basically helps improve your balance and acts as a bit of pain management as well. So I met up with John the other week, and he had actually gone through some balance tests with me and everything without any of the technology to begin with. And as you're all probably aware, my balance is absolutely abysmal, just because of the imbalance really with the asymmetry, because the right side's a lot weaker than the left. So I was really interested to see what effect, if any, this wearable technology would have. So I did those exercises, and I then was put onto these wearable insoles and redid all of the balance tests myself and John had done before without. And I do have to say, I did really notice a difference, especially on the bits where I was rotating. I do really struggle because I have to overcompensate with the left side a lot, with my back seizing up quite a lot because I get stiff. I get quite a lot of pain through my back anyway, and I have to go for regular physio. But I did really notice a difference in terms of how much my mobility had improved, being able to rotate between one side and the other. So yeah, as I say, we actually videoed all of that monthly challenge with John, which will actually be going out along with this podcast in July. So you, Curtis, and everyone else out there watching it, feel free to watch that mini-series to find out more about Vox Life's products, which will be included in the bio bit, along with prices and also contact information for John Moody if you have any questions or would like any more information on the products. So yeah. Next up, we have Recreational reviews and recommendations, which is Curtis's bit, because I'm done talking now. So take it away, Curtis.
Over the past couple of weeks, I've been finding a couple of things to watch, and Ashleigh actually recommended The Good Doctor. Now, I was flicking through the channels a couple of days ago, and I found and it wasn't the first season, but it was a couple of seasons thing, and I must admit, I was hooked the first minute I watched it. I can totally relate to the character. I can see myself in the character. How he homes in on stuff. He explains things more literally, doesn't he?
Very black and white. Yeah. There's no grey like quite a lot of autistic people are like.
Yeah. He says things as it is. But yeah, if you want to watch it, I'll totally recommend it. You'll find it on Amazon Prime, I think it is, Ashleigh.
Yeah, so I'd watched all the first series, and I'm now on the second series. Now I'm a bit of a cheapskate, so started watching the first series on Amazon Prime, but after the first one, you actually have to pay for the rest of the series on there. However, it is actually available on Sky, so if you've got Sky and you're fortunate enough to have Sky, have a look at it on there because it's free. But no, I think it was really good. Obviously, I've watched the whole of the first series and I'm on the second one at the moment. But in that very first episode for the first series, it was sort of like going through, went to the hospital that he wants a job at to become a doctor, and they were very anti having someone with a disability working for them and everything, because of all of the bad points obviously that can sometimes be associated with autism, like trouble communicating, for example, which he obviously does have trouble with, because he's very black and white and everything. However, he makes up for it obviously with his absolute attention to detail. So I think it really does show how a lot of people with disabilities or long-term health conditions, we have to jump through hoops to actually be given the opportunity for employment, really. So it really does show that, which I think is something really key that we need to be aware of as a society, with how difficult it is. So next up we have news alerts, which I have had a little bit of a look, and I found this article on Disability News Service. So just quickly, it's been found that MPs have asked the Prime Minister fewer than 20 questions on subjects focused on disabled people and their rights in the last 18 months of Prime Minister's questions, Disability News Services can reveal. Now, this was published on the 9th of June, and just a quick few points that I've highlighted really. So the analysis of the questions asked over the last 50 PMQs dating back to December 2020 showed that roughly between 1 and 1.5% of questions were aimed at seeking answers on disability, on issues such as disability, discrimination and rights and social care. Now, the analysis by the DNS looked at questions that included words such as disabled, disability, mental health, social care, autism, autistic, learning disability, learning difficulty. And when the analysis excluded questions about issues such as health and well-being, resilience, carers, diagnosis, treatments and care workers, there were just 19 questions asked in the 50 PMQs between the 9th of December in 2020 and the 25th of May this year. What do you think about that, Curtis? I
think it's very dismissive. They're not answering the question. I think they're avoiding it.
And also, I'd just pose a question. Obviously, in those last 18 months, we've been in the pandemic, and it's been no secret that people with disabilities and long-term health conditions have been really overlooked throughout. And I don't know, I think this just goes to show how overlooked we've been as a community with people with disabilities and long-term health conditions. The fact that hardly any questions have even been asked on those topics, really. So, yeah. Next up, we actually have some questions from citizens. Now, first one is from Jo Williams, and she has said, do you or any organisation that you know do any activities for people with sensory needs? Now, I think we actually do. However, I don't want to make any promises. But in between now and the next podcast, I will promise to have a look and let you know, Jo. So leave that with me and I'll get back to you with regards to that as soon as I can. Have we got any more, Curtis?
We have. Someone's asked, do you have autism? If you do, how do you cope with stress and anxiety?
That's a deep question. But really interesting one. Obviously, both of us actually have autism, so you've come to the right place. How do you deal with stress and anxiety?
My poor call is to phone my dad. He calms me down, or I just go into my calm place. You know, and just calm down and just relax and just calm my breathing. How about you?
So, I don't know whether you can relate to this. As a child, I was actually diagnosed late with autism. So I was diagnosed a couple of years ago. I suppose we've always known really that I have got autism because I don't really deal with change very well. I can get stressed and anxious quite easily when I feel quite a lot of pressure. And as a child, I really couldn't contain my emotions. So if I got angry, there was no stopping me. I was honestly, I feel really sorry for my parents and my siblings, because my temper tantrums were absolutely awful. And I have to say, even at 26, there are a few occasions that can come out as well still, which is a bit frustrating because I really struggle to stop it. But over the years, I've sort of like found, especially with my sport, with horse riding, and obviously I was on Team GB. I was actually aiming for the Paralympics at one point. But through my sport and working with various coaches, I was really fortunate enough to learn how to put my anger and frustration into something meaningful and actually channel it in a really positive way, to improve my performance when I was riding, really. And the only other way that I do cope and deal with it is probably by blowing off steam at the gym. And also, I think, like you said, obviously you contact your dad. I think it's really important to have a really strong support network there.
Yes.
So that it doesn't matter if you're at home, at work or whatever, if you're feeling stressed or anxious, you can go up to someone who you know can be supportive of you and say, look, I don't even necessarily know why, but I'm feeling really stressed, I'm feeling really anxious, I can't even put my finger on it as to why, please can you help calm me down and everything, and someone can help reason with you and sort of process those emotions, really. So that would be sort of my go-to method, really, if that's any help to you. I really hope it is. So I think we need to flip it back, don't we?
Yes, we do.
And actually ask the audience this time.
Yes.
So what's our question?
What makes you proud to be disabled?
Good question. What makes you proud to be disabled?
I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have a disability. It's a part of me. I am who I am. Take it or leave it, basically. Yeah.
And I think, like you've just said, we are who we are, aren't we? If you've got a disability, I don't think that's anything to be ashamed of.
No, it's not.
I do think as I was growing up, it was difficult to process, because at one point in one of the schools I was at, I was actually the only person with a disability there, or one of, which was quite difficult. But when I started competing and seeing lots of different people with different disabilities and stuff, it was amazing to see. So I was able to really accept it then. And I also think, I know it sounds a bit biased, but I really do believe this, having a disability really allows you to hone in on really essential skills from a younger age, like resilience, because we have to try a lot harder to do things, and it's not really good enough just to be able to sit down and go, can't do this, can't do that, someone else is going to have to do it for me. We have to try again until we find our own unique way of doing it.
Definitely.
Also, motivation and everything, and dedication. I think, work is a prime example. Like we were saying with the good doctor, finding a job when you have a disability or long-term health condition is really difficult, and I've really had difficulty finding various jobs and everything. So when I have been fortunate enough to be offered a job, I've absolutely put my heart and soul into the work that I do. I really work my absolute best, because I don't like poor quality. It's got to be perfect, because I do really focus on detail, and I have attention to detail. So and I have really high expectations of myself. So I think from that point of view, I'm really proud, because I actually offer a lot of qualities when it comes to employment and stuff, I believe anyway. And so does quite a lot of other people with disabilities and long-term health conditions as well. And the other thing that I think we're really fortunate with as well is the fact that we were actually born with our disabilities. So we are in our own right able-bodied, because we don't know any different.
No, we don't.
And we've just had to get on with it. Whereas there's quite a lot of people that have obviously had accidents and become disabled through having an accident. And those are the types of people that I really admire, because actually having the motivation and resilience to be able to get back up after being knocked down like that and relearn literally absolutely everything in a different way completely to what they've always known. I just think it's such strength to be able to do that. So So we've got just a couple of other segments that we want to cover, just so that we can end it on a really positive note. And obviously, just before we do that, we need to recap the question. So what is the question for the audience, Curtis?
What makes you proud to be disabled?
So comment in and let us know. We'd be really interested to know. And also to include that in next month's podcast, because July is Disability Pride Month.
Yes.
So I really want to include that in August's podcast so that we can showcase what your thoughts are and why you're proud to be disabled. So yeah, next up is Spotlight a Story. So obviously there's been quite a theme, hasn't there, with sort of what we've talked about in terms of employment actually today, I feel. And one of the other things that we had actually found, and this was on BBC News, is Bristol's first disability led brewery. And what else was found from that, Curtis?
A brewery and tap room will be the first in the city staffed by adults with learning disabilities. No, I think that's really, really, really good.
Yeah, and the former Tapestry Brewery has been purchased by Props, which is a charity that supports people with disabilities to gain work skills.
The new owners want to create a profitable enterprise that can provide real and meaningful work opportunities for its trainees.
And the mission is to break boundaries around people with disabilities working. Now, I really do feel that is breaking boundaries, as we've covered a little bit today.
Yeah.
I think obviously employment is a massive issue for people with disabilities, long-term health conditions, and even just everyone in general in any case. But obviously it's a lot harder because we've got to be more specific with what we're able to do and everything. And that there is that real culture, isn't there, which is quite difficult, that employers don't necessarily want to employ people if they haven't got the experience.
Yeah.
But how are they going to be able to get experience unless someone's had that opportunity?
Yeah.
So I think it's absolutely amazing that they've actually managed to do that so that people with learning disabilities are able to develop those key skills, make themselves more employable, learn, and also gain experience so that they've got that to add onto their CV for future employment if they want to look at other opportunities. So I just think that's a major step in the right direction, and hopefully other organisations take note of it as well. Don't you think?
I do, yes.
Great. So last but not least with segment is Noteworthy Mentions. So Curtis, I'm really hoping to see you there. On Monday, the 4th of July, we have our very first Citizens Forum meeting, which has been relaunched since the beginning of the pandemic. Now that is being held at our Wheely Castle hub, but we are offering people the ability to attend online across Zoom as well. So, but I also thought, not only should we get people involved from Midland Mencap, why not get people involved from Include Me Citizens Network?
Yeah.
Because it would create a lot more discussion. So I've invited all of my connections at Include Me and everything to come along as well. So it's individuals with disabilities and long-term health conditions and lived experiences, as well as a few professionals as well. And hopefully we'll be covering some topics. Just as an example, I think we've got one in the agenda that we're looking at, which is the cost of living crisis, which obviously is a major issue for a lot of people right now. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at doing that. And having a look to see if anyone has any suggestions of potentially what could be done to improve that for people with disabilities and long-term health conditions. That is between 12 and 2 o'clock, so you better be there, Curtis, and all of you. If you want any more information about that, have a look at Midland Mencap's Facebook page. We have put some posters out about that with more information, and also just email me over at ashleigh.jones@midlandmencap.org.uk. I can send you across the invite, which will include the address if you want to attend face-to-face, and also the invite link if you want to attend virtually. And just so you know, the people who are attending face-to-face, there's refreshments. Hopefully there's going to be biscuits as well. But yeah, that's just an added bonus if you're face-to-face. So yeah. And also, as I've just mentioned a bit earlier in this podcast, it's Disability Pride Month in June, and I'm really hoping that we can... July.
Yeah.
getting confused. So I'm really hoping to get some of you guys involved and maybe video you and find out why you're proud to have your disability, so we can put that into a short video perhaps that we can maybe showcase across social media channels and everything, to really showcase the importance of why it's important to be proud of your disability and all of the amazing things that it comes with and everything. So yeah, I think that has just about wrapped us up. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? No? Okay. If you guys have any questions for the next podcast, it could be about absolutely anything within reason, that you'd like mine and Curtis's opinions on or to answer, please let us know. You can email me, as I said, with my email address, or comment on social media so that our social media team can put it through to us and everything, so that we can include it in next month's podcast. In the meantime, see you later.